Hi, this is Rev Ed with today's Back Porch Devotional from Psalm 74. O God, why do you cast us off forever? Why does your anger smoke against the sheep of your pasture? Remember your congregation, which you have purchased of old, which you have redeemed to be the tribe of your heritage. Remember Mount Zion, where you have dwelt. Direct your steps to the perpetual ruins. The enemy has destroyed everything in the sanctuary. Your foes have roared in the midst of your meeting place. They have set up their own signs for signs. They are like those who swing axes in a forest of trees, and all its carved wood they broke down with hatchets and hammers. They set your sanctuary on fire. They profaned the dwelling place of your name, bringing it down to the ground. They said to themselves, we will utterly subdue them. They burned all the meeting places of God in the land. We do not see our signs. There is no longer any prophet, and there is none among us who knows how long. How long, O God, is the foe to scoff? How long is the enemy to revile your name? Why do you hold back your hand, your right hand? Take it from the fold of your garment and destroy them. Yet God, my King, is from of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. You divided the sea by your might. You broke the heads of the sea monsters on the waters. You crushed the heads of Leviathan. You gave him as food for the creatures of the wilderness. You split open springs and brooks. You dried up ever-flowing streams. Yours is the day, yours also the night. You have established the heavenly lights and the sun. You have fixed all the boundaries of the earth. You have made summer and winter. Remember this, O Lord, how the enemy scoffs, and a foolish people reviles your name. Do not deliver the soul of your dove to the wild beasts. Do not forget the life of your poor forever. Have regard for the covenant, for the dark places of the land are full of the habitations of violence. Let not the downtrodden turn back in shame. Let the poor and needy praise your name. Arise, O God, defend your cause. Remember how the foolish scoff at you all the day. Do not forget the clamor of your foes, the uproar of those who rise against you, which goes up continually. This painful psalm was written in response to the destruction of the temple after the Babylonian invasion. And the psalmist is lamenting that it seems that God has abandoned his people. The very place that was considered the dwelling place of God has been utterly torn apart and burned down. All the treasures hauled off. There is no place to worship, and the people are despondent. And the psalmist is crying out to God for mercy, and with a question on his heart, how long, O God, is the enemy going to triumph over this place that was your holy habitation on earth? It seems that God has abandoned his people, and the psalmist cries out to him to remember his covenant. There are times when we feel utterly abandoned by God, where it seems that the places that God used to be are no more, where we feel that God is far and remote, and that the enemy, whoever that is or whatever that is in our lives, is just running rampant over us. And this is just a heartfelt cry to God to rise up and remember his covenant, remember the people he has claimed for his own, and to act and to do something. Now, one of the things that the psalmist does not touch on, but that we should remember, is that the temple was destroyed because Israel had wandered away from her faith. She had not only tolerated but celebrated foreign gods. She had become a nation of corruption and injustice, with poor who were deeply downtrodden by their own rulers. It was a place of rampant immorality. God will not let such things go unchecked. And so we should reflect on our own world. I believe it was Billy Graham who was asked one time whether or not God would judge America. And he said, quite seriously, if God does not judge America, he'll owe Sodom and Gomorrah an apology. And Scripture tells us that one of the ways God judges a people, individuals as well as nations, is that he eventually withdraws his restraining hand and lets them run down a path that will lead to destruction. That is a sobering thought for us, again, as individuals and as a nation. And we need to cry out to God, not simply to act against his enemies, but to act to renew his people, to revive us, to send a revival to this land, a reorientation of our hearts and our ways to the ways of God and not to the ways of man. We are seriously off base. We are way off course, and we need to redirect our lives to the God who claimed us for himself, for the God who redeemed us, not so that we could live as we jolly well please, but that we might glorify him. As Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians, I think chapter 6, where he says, you are not your own. You were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. That is, in everything that you do. Everything you do and say and think is a reflection of the place of God in your life. And so, before any more destruction comes upon us, before any more torment falls on our heads, we need to examine ourselves and see whether or not some of this might be because we have wandered from God's ways, and what we are experiencing is God's judgment. Now, not every bit of trouble comes upon us because of God's judgment. Trouble comes upon us because this is a troubled and broken world. But we need to remember the words of Jesus. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart. I have overcome the world. So it is right to cry out to God for help. It is also right to cry out to God to turn our own hearts. As David said in Psalm 51, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. That's a good prayer for us to begin the new year with, as we contemplate all the terrible things around us and consider how God might be calling us to live differently in this new year. God's blessings be upon you today.